You know, I am a staunch believer of the fact that everything is content, right? Your foundation is content, enablement, assets, everything. Rest, all of it, apart from content, are really channels, right? So, videos, digital marketing, then we have, programmatic and media, right? PR being one medium, so on and so forth. There may be many more mediums like paid marketing, as we talked about a bit earlier.
This is the Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hello and welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO. I am your main man, Chris Mechanic, here with a really exciting guest. I'm actually thrilled to introduce him. He's an accomplished marketing leader with a very impressive career spanning over 14 years in digital marketing, B2B SaaS, go-to-market strategies, digital transformation across various industries. He's got deep expertise in product marketing and positioning and messaging, as well as just like general digital marketing excellence, which you'll see here. But he's successfully orchestrated GTM strategies for big major B2B companies like High Radius and Sitecore and Incedo, and has been recognized for numerous accolades like PMA Ambassador 2024, Sitecore Most Valuable Professional, as well as many internal awards like the best leader award or making a difference award internally. Currently, he's global head of marketing at Attentive AI, which is a really interesting SaaS play catering to the home services industry. So I'm incredibly excited to introduce Mr. Sushovan Saha. How are you, Sushovan?
Hey, Chris, thanks for the warm welcome. Pretty excited about today. Uh,
I'm excited about it too, man. I'm excited about it too. We had a conversation earlier. You kind of hinted or alluded to me what your secret is. So I'm really excited for you to share with the audience. But let's get right into it, man. I mean, what would you say is one of your biggest secrets to success?
over the years, I have sort of relied a lot on playbooks, right? So I have like 4 or 5 key playbooks that I sort of lead on to execute any big, small, medium marketing initiative. Obviously, people comes with it, right? We have to sort of again work and rework on your playbooks to make it more pertinent, to make it more relevant with the current times, right? That I would say would be my superpower, right? So I don't go back to the drawing board, start from scratch. Don't try to sort of reinvent the wheel every time. I try to see what I have with me, try to build from there, right? And more often than not, the this approach has sort of helped me to sort of get started first, and then obviously build uh, a healthy sort of a pipeline in terms of revenue, in terms of deals, so on and so forth.
This is near and dear to my heart. I love playbooks. I was saying to you on during the prep call, like I have 1,000 playbooks in my mind. I haven't necessarily written them all down. Probably I should. You mentioned you have 4 or 5. I'm curious, like what are they in general? Is it like what are those 4 or 5 playbooks?
So the one I would start with customer validation, right? That's something that is very at the core of what I have done over the years, right? And also at the core of product marketing per se. So basically, putting customer at the centerfold of whatever you do as an organization, as a marketing department, working across multiple other, collaborating across multiple other departments. Uh, a lot of the times I've seen marketers sort of lose their way in terms of how things should be done, how things should be executed. They forget that everything that is we are doing, it's because of the customers, whether it's the B2B space or the B2C space, right? So I of course have a customer validation playbook that I sort of rely on, right? So again, that has a lot of focus on buyer personas, right? On what are the problems that the customers are looking at this point? How can that be solved, and why is your product or your organization best place to sort of solve it? When I start sort of repeating this exercise across organizations, there's a lot of discovery that goes along in the process, right? More often than not, we realize that, organizations have been very transactional in their approach, in the daily cadences, scrum calls, so on and so forth. They have sort of stopped talking to the customer proactively, right? So that's that, I have driven a lot in terms of bringing the voice of the customer at the centerfold with the customer validation playbook. And again, at the same time, it's not only about buyer journeys and personas, it's also about what assets you can create month on month, right? With that buyer journey in at the centerfold, right? The content that really resonates with the audience.
So that sounds like a really amazing play to run, like right when you first enter a new organization. Like right when you enter a new organization, like you got to nail down the personas, you got to nail down the journeys, and then basically, map the various problems that they're experiencing to the various solutions that you can provide. Think about the messaging and how you're positioning yourself. And then also it includes this component of like ongoing content creation, like what sorts of maybe like a content gap analysis or so that's badass. That's really awesome. And so you have that like all written out somewhere, like you've documented that playbook.
Yes, and the first playbook I had built was back in high radius, back in 2021, somewhere around 2021, 2022. And I have built that out of Google Data Studio. So along with my team, obviously. So that gave me an inspiration that, this is something that I should be doing as a repeat process, not only in my present organization, but something that can be really executable in future roles, right? Not only pertaining to me, I have also shared that with other marketing leaders in different domains that can be useful, right? In my peer group, uh, also along with the new budding leaders. And I found out that actually I also want to sort of test out that whether it's the hypothesis that I have run, or does it work for only me and the industry that I'm catering to, or it's pertinent to all industries. And broadly, the feedback that I have got from most folks is that yes, it helps basically not only to sort of drive a lot of revenue or um, in terms of strengthening your pipeline, but also in terms of customer retention, right? So I think that's something that we have forgotten to sort of talk about as we have, evolved in our marketing journey. Uh, I think customer acquisition is sort of the most sought after, attribute, but I think retention strategies are equally important, if not more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just really hard to be a CMO these days. Like a CMO, there's so much that's expected of them. Like they're expected at the same time to be a master of messaging and communication and brand positioning. And then they're supposed to turn around and be able to, do data science and, understand the intricacies of these like incredibly complex platforms. Like Google Ads is so complex these days. LinkedIn ads changes every day. So it's really, really challenging to be a CMO. And in the midst of all of these things, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot I need to think about the customer, right? And so like, how do I even start that process of thinking about the customer? I'm so busy, my calendar's packed, like I need this focused time to think about a customer. And it would be really, really helpful to have a checklist of just like, are you doing this? Did you do that? What's up with that? So I love the concept of playbooks. I'd love to see that particular playbook.
Sure. Sometime in the next call, I'll definitely share that with you. And obviously, we want to sort of bounce a bit of ideas because, hey, there might be a few aspects that I'm not looking at this point.
Yeah, no, 100%. Cool. So you ran me down the customer validation playbook in detail. Can you run me down some of the other, because you mentioned like you've got four or five, just in not as much detail, but just like what's, what are the main goals of the other four or five playbooks that you got, or three or four playbooks?
One other playbook that I have with me that is very closely aligned to customer validation would be review websites and analyst relations. But yeah, that need not pertain to every organization out there, because you also have to see the journey of the organization. If you are an organization,
Most most organizations, yeah, when you Google their brand name, right, usually they'll be number one, and then there'll be a number of review sites or third party sites that are number two, three, four. Sometimes a clever competitor figures out how to score number five, number six slot on the search results. So I think that is broadly applicable to every company.
yeah, it is, but it also depends if you are in the 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 journey. It might not be right at the top of your priorities right at this point. So yes, definitely, if you are going sort of going beyond, right, beyond the 10 journey, like the 10 to 100 journey or more, you definitely have to sort of latch onto these larger themes, especially analyst relations, right? Because again, um, you can advocate for yourself, your customers can advocate for you, but at the end of the day, a third party organization advocating for you, putting you up there, your organization up there in a quadrant, or as a newcomer in a particular segment or category, definitely speaks volumes. So yeah, I've done that kind of work in my previous roles. It's very exciting. Yeah, very exciting, because you sort of the most exciting part about building that is sort of seeing your positioning and messaging going through so many rounds of revisions and updates, and finally when you sort of go out to the market, you realize that your positioning might have been too naive to start with, and uh, but it helps the marketers to sort of really talk in the language that resonates not only with your target audience, but also to maybe newer categories and industries that we might be focusing in the future.
Dude, Sushova, this is so good, man. So you walk right into an organization, it's like boom, customer validation framework. Now we know our personas, we know who we're talking to. Boom, reviews and analyst relations, right? So now we're covering the broader ecosphere. What are the other? I mean, I think you have two or three others that you mentioned.
These two at the top of my sort of like go big, basically. The other one that I have is on trade shows and events, both virtual events as well as in-person events. And really, I started to develop this back in 2020, somewhere in the middle, when I had to do sort of 14 webinars in a month. from zero from zero nada to 14. So that's the kind of journey that I have been a part of. Obviously those were not, I would say, um, all executed in the right manner, or if I look back, I can sort of do half of them and still rake in more interest from the prospects. But there is a learning process. I learned a lot. I think the entire world went through the journey of uh, in-person events to complete remote virtual events, back to sort of a 60-40 split, if you may, in terms of in favor of in-person trade shows again. In fact, I was reading this very interesting article the other day. It said that small scale trade shows and small scale virtual events are really the go to medium for most organizations, because you sort of tend to network more, have really tailored conversations. And so basically, it's not a volume game at the end of the day anymore. It's like, can you have, let's say, 50 sales acceptable leads and try to sort of take out as much juice as possible in terms of revenue, right? That's the kind of conversation and that's the kind of journey that we have been a part of. I have obviously been in the thick of it, right? As I mentioned, in my present organization, we'll be doing, I think, around more than 25 trade shows next year. So,
Wow.
so the
In person.
in person, yes, along with maybe one or two webinars every month, because again, multi-product approach, completely different industries.
Yeah. What do you guys use for your tech stack? Are you like a Salesforce shop or HubSpot?
That's right. Those two are our go-to.
Both. I nailed it. I got it.
Yes, Salesforce and HubSpot, primarily HubSpot, uh, for both our email cadences as well as tracking our sort of the sales journey, if you may.
Hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally, no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours, even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.
That's cool. So I'm impressed because these playbooks are very macro, like they're like broad view, like, hey, who are our customers? What review sites are we on? What are these events or trade shows that we should prioritize? Do you have any others? I mean, those are really good. Like that could be enough right there. But do you have any others?
So again, I started to sort of build from the top, and now I'm really talking about, I have the positioning and messaging framework, or the playbook. It's not really a playbook; it's basically a framework, uh, right down to the action plans, execution frameworks, templates within the messaging and positioning um, bucket. So basically, if I were to start off from ground zero, I would start from positioning and messaging playbook to the trade shows and events, and now back to customer validation, right, and then to the analyst relations. So it depends who is our stakeholder. If you're talking about the leaders, it has to be a top-down approach. But if you're working with multiple teams cross-functionally, then it has to be a bottoms-up approach.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. That's really cool. So then when you're walking into an org, you'll run your positioning and messaging framework playbook. And then you use the customer validation framework to validate that positioning and messaging, more or less. That's really smart. And then you proceed to the reviews and analyst relations and the trade shows. So it's not only a series of playbooks, it's also like kind of a sequence of how you would run through them.
How I sort of view the entire playbooks, the scheme of playbooks is that, I am a staunch believer of the fact that everything is content, right? Your foundation is content, enablement, assets, everything. Rest all of it apart from content are really channels, right? So videos, digital marketing, then we have programmatic and media, right? PR being one medium, so on and so forth. There may be many more mediums like paid marketing, as we talked about a bit earlier. Until and unless your foundation is really strong, you can do a lot of channel marketing. It really doesn't mean much. That's I think I have realized that over the years, and really put that into practice. Even in my present organization, we are going through that journey. But slowly and steadily, everybody's realizing that this is the way to sort of play in the longer run.
Yeah. So you'll take your time and do it right to figure out the messaging, figure out the positioning, validate that with the customers, determine your events and your show. And then is when you really are kind of diving in on a channel specific basis to really activate those things, which is smart. Because I think a lot of companies will just be like, well, in a lot of companies, there's multiple influences coming, right? Like the CS team will be like, oh, we've got this really awesome case study for XYZ client. And that just sort of hits you out of nowhere. And then they want to see it promoted on the website. They want to see it promoted on ads and things. And so we sometimes fall victim to this sort of hamster wheel type of approach where we are receiving inputs from the team and the team's saying, oh, this has to, we have to really promote this and show this. And more often than not, the things that they're showing are aligned with the core value proposition and the core messaging and the core audience. Like they're not unaligned, but it's just only a small part of the story and we haven't yet crafted the whole story. But it's really smart, I think, to take the time, like during the onset, to say, hey guys, stop what we're doing. We're going to like really nail down this messaging framework and we're really going to be clear on who our audience is and what we're putting out there. And then we're going to put money behind it and wheels under it, Sushovan, you're a badass. Certified.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Certified badass. Cool. Well, hey man, talk to me about Attentive. I want to learn more about it. I know you're fairly new there, but for folks that are listening that aren't familiar with Attentive AI, like tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So Attentive AI is a AI-based automated takeoff software. So what is a takeoff? Takeoff is basically a process to sort of calculate all the materials, resources, and manpower needed to get any construction or landscaping or field services project underway. So that's like the first step of your project. And that's really the first step to sort of help companies bid for any project. So what our platform, B2B SaaS platform really does is help sort of automate the entire process of a takeoff. It's 98% accurate, right? And helps you to sort of bid faster, bid more, right? In a very short span of time. So technically, the entire manual process of bidding after the takeoff process would look like around a week or a month, right? With our automated software, it's around reduced to a day or two. So it's as fast as that and also accurate. And at the same time, in the nature of the industry, whether it be landscaping or as well as construction, the first bid really makes the crack in terms of getting the project. So even when we're talking about construction, like the players would be subcontractors, general contractors, and then obviously dialing down into specific trades, right? So it helps our software sort of navigate the entire journey within a couple of days. Uh, and again, Attentive is basically broken down into basically two products, right? So Automeasure is for landscaping and field services, whereas Beam AI is for construction. Completely different industries, completely different user personas, but uh, product that we sort of service both industries would be AI based automated takeoff software.
I see. So for a landscaper, I notice you guys have this aerial takeoff. So for a landscaper, it's like, boom, okay, you've got this large service area to look at. Like, let's take an aerial view of it and then thereby help you develop quotes more or less. So like, is takeoff software, is that synonymous with sort of like a quoting engine? Like,
Yes, codes, bidding, basically making the bidding process fast.
yeah. And then the Beam AI angle is almost like a blueprint. Like Yeah, like you can basically develop these blueprints of these spaces more rapidly, and then thereby more or less develop more accurate bids and faster.
That's right. So you got it right there. In fact, that's the point I missed. Blueprint is primarily for construction because traditionally the industry was restricted to sort of drawing polygons, rectangles, everything. And this was a very long process. The larger the project, the later would be a bid. And hey, if you miss your bid by a large margin, even if you're fast, you will not get the project. So accuracy as well as timing, the faster turnaround time, please, is sort of intertwined for this industry.
Yeah, and who is this for? Is this for, any old mom and pop construction or landscaping company, or is this more for like the larger ones?
It's actually for both. So we have both models. We have a free trial version, right? We have again a enterprise version also. So traditionally, what we want is for users to sort of uh, test our platform with a couple of free takeoffs, and then decide what journey they want to be a part of. Whether they wanted to sort of take their entire account into an automated platform journey, or they want to sort of outsource a part of their project and try to see how is it. So yeah, that's something that works as a model. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that you're relatively new there, but I'm curious, like from your perspective, just after a few months, like what is really working for you guys? Like what's really driving the revenue engine there?
I think Beam is our next. We are betting big on Beam basically because the target market for the total addressable market for Beam in the construction space is about 20x compared to landscaping. So, so even if we make a dent by getting at least 1% of the market share, will be a unicorn in no time. So that's like sort of the dream out here, and we have seen a lot of validation from our customers. Um, we have scaled to 0 to 100 customers within I think 10 months. So yeah, that's the kind of validation that we have got. It's not an initial euphoria. It's basically month on month growth that we have observed, and we have rationalized our growth on Beam right going ahead. Now, what does it look like is that we are getting a lot of sales accepted leads month on month. The numbers are rising by every month, basically. The challenge here is basically conversion, because if you are getting so many sales accepted leads, how much will you sort of nurture towards conversion, right? So again, it's a challenge as well as an opportunity for us to sort of improve our conversion metrics for Beam, right?
So where are the leads coming from though? Like,
Primarily through our paid marketing engine. Right?
okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Talk to me.
Performance marketing really sort of helped us go from 0 to 5 in terms of the journey. But we know it's not sustainable. It has to be built on a great organic growth.
Yeah. And so the paid marketing, is it mostly LinkedIn or mostly Google Ads or display?
Primarily, it lists Google Ads. Part of it would be LinkedIn. Then we have other channels like publisher media, right? There are a lot of magazines, newsletters that are part of the construction industry. So we use that channel extensively also. But the nature of the industry is that they are primarily dependent on Google search because, again, this is the industry just like manufacturing. They haven't seen digital transformation like e-commerce or any other. Even for finance, they have sort of grown really in leaps and bounds. But the construction industry or the landscaping industry are digital first. They are not. So, so they are still dependent on organic search on as the primary medium in the digital space. But again, as I mentioned, trade shows would be a next frontier of growth along with organic growth.
Yeah. Brilliant. And what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, as I was mentioning, I think the conversion there is something that we want to sort of double tap on, or we want to grow our conversion metrics at least by two and a half to really see it come alive, basically. Right. And that is where we are putting a lot of bandwidth, resources, right? And at the same time, it has to be led through product marketing. There is uniformity and uh, alignment within the leadership, with me being in charge of marketing now, that it has to be built with product marketing, because sales and account executives don't have that time to sort of intertwine customer needs, preferences to conversion metrics. We are trying to build the playbook around that here, tailor made for that industry. So basically, uh, improving our free trials to demos, improving demos to conversions, focusing on no shows, why are they happening, focusing on basically every dropout metric at, at the entire user journey, and really trying to sort of work around the problem statements for the customer. More often that we have felt is that this can be really solved with an engagement, with higher engagement with the prospects. If there are no shows, if they're dropping out, we have to keep them in the journey, because hey, I mean, there was initial interest with the product. What happened after that? Is there a pricing issue? Is there a intent issue? Intent might not be the problem, but we are just sort of uncovering that as we go by.
Yeah. And you know what you could do is you could, especially if you're running Google Ads, you could set up like a landing page. Think about a conversion funnel, which goes through and kind of asks these qualifying questions. So it might ask about size, it might ask about what you're currently doing, it might whatever you find to be the commonalities between the most qualified prospects and the least. You could set up almost like a quiz like uh, element that happens kind of before your landing page, even. It's just like, hey, answer these few questions, especially in a world where your audience is not really all that like, web first. Like if you greet them with a landing page that has a form on it, they're likely to bounce. But if you greet them with a series of really simple questions that are not that invasive from like from a PII perspective, and you start, basically firing those as events and communicating those back to the platform, then you can help Google to understand like what a really good prospect really looks like. You could even probably DQ some of the prospects before they even reach the sales floor, just based on size or based on, whatever other questions that you might ask. But that's really exciting. I mean, that's a good problem to have in general.
Yes, there are bad problems to have. There are good problems to have. This is definitely a good problem to have. And you hit bingo there, Chris. I think I have been trying to sort of build a product workthrough, basically really a guided tour before you even jump onto the platform or a free trial, to help people navigate and also get back the data, that what are the areas that they are looking at within the platform, right? Really basic features, nothing over the top, but really trying to see in terms of navigating our initial sort of the screen of the product, are they sort of, is the content or is the product resonating with them, right? So that when also, it also helps the understanding when they finally come for a demo, they're not uneducated about your product. They already have some context, right? So it's from there on, it would be, hey, can you match your our scale? Can you match our customization? And yeah, it's really a yes no after that.
Right. 100%. So, Sushovan, this is awesome, man. I really, really appreciate it. I learned a lot. I've been inspired. For everybody that's listening, if you learned anything or were inspired at all, pay it forward, share this with a friend, drop us a 5-star review wherever you get your pods. We really appreciate that. Sushovan, for folks that would like to learn more about you or Attentive, where would you direct them?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. My name is pretty unique. My parents ensured that. So, so if you search me on LinkedIn, you'll find me. Yeah, I sort of advocate a lot about our product, about Attentive, so you can learn about Attentive also on LinkedIn. Attentive is also very active on LinkedIn. We have a healthy community out there for landscaping and construction folks. So we have a running webinar every month. You can catch us there. Not pertinent to your industry, but you can learn a lot about the industry. Um, See where they are in their individual journey of digital transformation. It's very interesting because the problem statements and the challenges are very niche and very different, challenging as well as interesting at the same time. So yeah, those are top places, and obviously Attentive.ai is the website. You can go today, check out our products, and write back to me if you have any comments, understanding how can we improve our product, how can we improve our positioning, any ideas, any thoughts are welcome.
Yeah, 100%. And I can tell that you guys are doing some smart things. Like the recurring webinar monthly is definitely smart. I also see you're running a Black Friday sale, which you don't often see that in B2B SaaS, but like, why not, right? Like it coincides with the end of a quarter, and so you have all these sales reps that are like, come on, like let's get it done this quarter, like a Black Friday. I think that's brilliant. I mean, I think that Black Friday deal in B2B SaaS, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be doing that too.
Yeah, so we are really testing out this BLG motion because this part of the year, generally the sales motion really dries up. So hey, if we give a discount on our platform access fee, would that help you sort of jump on our platform for a free trial or a demo? Why not? And we're seeing initial good response that we have. That's why we have sort of extended the Black Friday sale till December 9th. Uh, I got a call from our president field services yesterday saying that, hey, you should really package this Black Friday to something around Christmas. This shouldn't end by the end of the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, most Black Friday sales go until at least Christmas. Some of them even do Cyber Monday sales.
That's right.
Days after Christmas. And I could imagine, especially with that particular audience, like I could imagine them, because it's B2B, but it's sort of like, especially when you're selling to the smaller clients, like they sort of probably act more like consumers.
That's right.
But anyway, stay on the line just 1 second. We're going to wrap. But for everybody else, that was another awesome episode of Revenue Driven CMO. And we will see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenuedrivencmo.com. That's revenuedrivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client, if you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.